Hello Goblins, Chris here, Eldritch Pipes. This video is a little bit different. It's not about pipes. Boo, you say. Understandable. But before I knuckle down back into the pipe making world, I wanted to talk about something else that was close to my heart. As you must know by now, I'm a Lovecraft fan, and I wanted to do a review for the recent Colour Out of Space, the Richard Stanley film. So that is what I'm going to do. Let's get into it. You might have heard that this was in the works, but it's a fairly low-key film, I would say. It does star Nicolas Cage. I was a little wary about. I wouldn't describe myself as a Cage fan, but I wasn't going to let that stop me to see a Lovecraft adaptation. Okay, so it's an adaptation. Let's get into that. One of the bugbears for every Lovecraft fan is that any Lovecraft film is more or less an egregious adaptation. Apart from the HPLHS, who do they stick to the source material really tightly. Everybody else takes huge liberties, and that's normally because they just can't handle the cosmic horror of the tale, generally speaking. Or there are visuals in there that are just beyond people's ability to represent. But this film adapts Colour Out of Space really well. If you know the tale, it's not a plot-driven story, it's an event that happens that slowly affects the landscape and the family within it. And it's more or less a descent into madness story. In the original tale, it's told as a memory. It's told as a lived experience thing by Army Pierce. Army Pierce is not a character that appears in this film. They sort of make a nod to Army Pierce. There's a character called Ezra, played by Tommy Chong, who's like a really cool old hippie fellow. And is the only one that really understands the cosmic elements in play. So for the film, the event is happening in real time. We're watching it happen as it unfolds. It does its own thing, so it's like shakes up the family. In the original story, the family has 3 sons. In this version, Nahum Gardner, who is called Nathan Gardner in the film, and his wife have a son and a daughter. And the daughter is called Lavinia, which, if you know your Lovecraft lore, is more or less a shout out to the Dunwich Horror. Lavinia Whiteley, but still, you can't ignore a name like Lavinia. It's somewhat told through the eyes of the chap surveying the area, as it is in the story, but he's more of a, even though he narrates the beginning, he's more a character in the story than it is him telling the story. Although he bookends the movie with a narration. So you could call him the voice of the movie, but not the eyes of the movie, if that makes sense. Okay. There's so many good things to talk about. The atmosphere in the film is just amazing. It's creepy, it's weird. You know that you're somewhere different. The cinematography is really fantastic. I mean, the film just looks gorgeous. The colour palette is saturated, which I find really refreshing. As it's kind of like a rebuttal of the the Christopher Nolan sort of desaturated, everything sort of virtually grey. This is like the opposite of that. And I really liked it. Obviously it ties in with a sort of theme of weird colour, and so they're playing with colour. But it just looks so great. The acting is really great. Like I say, I'm not a Cage fan, but man, he's just really there in the film. He plays a sort of quirky, loving, chap, the father, and obviously then as things go wrong, he goes wrong with it. First in very subtle, really subtle, nice little ways, and before they amps it up to go full Cage, as they say. The standout has to be Madeline Arthur, who plays Lavinia. She is, I would say, the eyes of the film, and she kind of starts off a little odd and stays a little odd, but she's just like really, I just really like the portrayal. It's really interesting. It's quite subtle, and it works really nicely. There's quite a few shout outs to different Lovecraft tales, although predominantly the Dunwich Horror is the one that they sort of call out to most. There's a nice scene where the mum and dad are just talking on the porch at night, and you can hear the whippoorwills in the forest, in the woods, which is a really nice, subtle, it's not in your face, but it's there. If you know it, you know what that's all about. There's a scene close to the end with Ezra, the guy who sort of like gets the cosmic element, and it's a real strong shout out to the Whisperer in Darkness. It's really creepy, it's full on, it's really great. The visual effects, they are really nice, I would say. They obviously don't have a lot of money, but they just use it really wisely. There's some body horror going on. There's some like practical effects that are just quite disturbing. Some things happen in the movie that don't happen in the book. I'm not going to spoil anything. Just like you can, just quite. It does put you on edge. Put me on edge. So, let's try and be a bit balanced. Not everything is brilliant. A lot of it is brilliant, but not everything is brilliant. The Ward character, who is the surveyor, he's the sort of scientist. He's not really given a lot to do in this film. he's kind of a passive element. You could have removed him from the whole thing and would have made no difference. We do a little bit with him here and he pops up there, but I don't know, his role didn't it didn't make it essential. It's kind of serviceable. He doesn't get in the way, so that's okay. One scene I was really hoping for that doesn't happen. At the end of the book, Neon Gardner is on the stairs, crawling towards Army Pierce, talking and sort of crumbling away at the same time. And I was thinking, how are they going to do this? But that element, that kind of that living things crumbling and compressing, isn't in the film. They don't sort of go for that. And his death is a more standard death, I suppose. Which I thought was that niggled me. I thought it was a bit disappointing. But hey ho. The other thing, the last thing, is that the colour out of space, the colour that you can't name, you've never seen it before, is pink. Now we know it's pink. This is the only downside of doing this story in a visual medium. Of course, the whole point of the colour out of space is that it emanates from beyond the spheres, and it's a colour you've never seen before. So you can do it in a book, you can do it as a radio play, but how do you represent a colour that you've never seen before within the standard colour spectrum? Typically, Lovecraft uses violet to indicate weirdness going on. And so pinky violet, pinky purple is in that part of what's going on. So I understand their choice. It's just really a shortcoming of that story in that medium, but I felt it has to be mentioned. Can't ignore it. But I would say, please watch the film. Find a way to watch it. I don't know if it's on general release, but it really deserves to be seen by as many people as possible. It's one of the great Lovecraft adaptations. And if we're lucky, we'll get more. Who knows? That's my review for the colour out of space. As for this channel, I'm going to try and introduce one of my other obsessions. This is still going to be a pipe channel. That's what I'm about. But I have another obsession, and I figured some of you might appreciate it. And that obsession is whiskey. Is collecting the right word? I'll say collecting, although I wouldn't call myself a whiskey collector. That implies somebody spending thousands of pounds on the most obscure bottles. That's not what I do. Although I am interested in different and interesting expressions. I thought I'll either, when I do a video, I'll introduce a whiskey that I've been drinking, along with whatever other news is going on, or I'll do specific whiskey videos, so that if you're not interested in whiskey, you can just skip those and just hang around for the pipe stuff. We'll see. I'll try a few things and see what people like best. I'm not too fussed how I do it particularly, but it's time to start talking whiskey, I reckon. Alright. That's it. I will see you soon. I'll probably be doing another video quite shortly, I should imagine. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you soon. Ta-da.